I made this decision in the national interest, and there is no one factor that I will point to that swayed my decision one way or the other.
In Doha 2020, 13 Australian women were hauled off a Qatar Airways plane and invasively strip-searched. Authorities hunting for the mother of a newborn, found abandoned in a bathroom in the airport. Today, questions over whether that is the real reason for the denial of Qatar Airways' request for more flights into Australia.
This is the only airline that has something like that that has happened, and so I can't say that I wasn't aware of it, but certainly it wasn't the only factor. It was a factor.
What are the other factors? What are the other factors then?
In June, 5 of the women wrote to the minister. We beg to consider its insensitive and irresponsible treatment of us when considering Qatar's request. 6 weeks ago, King denied that had affected her decision. Today, confirming she rejected Qatar's request on July 10th, the same day that she signed a letter back to the 5 women, informing them of her decision.
You can read what you want into that.
The opposition accusing the government of running a protection racket for Qantas and on the attack.
If this was the real reason, why didn't she just say so the first time she was asked when this controversy first emerged weeks ago?
It was certainly relevant at the time, but is it enough of a reason to deny this particular airline additional routes at a time when we've seen airfares potentially 50%, 40 to 50% higher than they were prior to the pandemic?
We think that human rights should be part of any decision that a government makes on any level. Really championing human rights is always going to be in our national interest.
Today, the government explaining it was where Qatar wanted to fly into that was also a factor.
If Qatar Airways wants to run more flights in and out of Australia, it can do that. It can run in and out of Adelaide, in and out of Canberra, in and out of the Gold Coast, in and out of Cairns.
If it's a human rights issue or a safety issue or a national security issue, well then the question shouldn't be, is Qatar allowed to have 28 flights or 56 flights, but whether they should have any flights at all.
I don't think it's necessarily about stopping every single flight into the country. I think it's about showing that when you don't respect human rights, there will be consequences.
So, as the airline row continues to rage, is the government in a tailspin?
The Guardian's Amy Remeikis joins us now. Amy, has the government come clean on why they made this decision?
Well, they have several times, but just with different reasons. And that's part of the problem, is that you can't piece together an entire picture of why this decision was made. And that is why we're now having an inquiry into it. And it's why the opposition are making political hay while all of this sun shines. Catherine King has been unable to explain adequately why this decision was made. And it wouldn't be an issue if Qantas wasn't so much on the nose, but it is, and that's politics.
Amy, in some ways this story started out as one about airfares and why we're all paying so much to travel, and did the government make a decision that put pressure on them in the wrong direction. Suddenly it's about human rights and Australians overseas. Does that change what this argument is?
Well, I guess that all comes down to the definition of in the national interest, and that is what Catherine King's argument has been, is that she made the decision in the national interest. But we don't actually have a definition of that. We don't actually know what that actually means to Catherine King and why that decision was made, and is it unilaterally applied to every decision that they make in this space. So it is one of the considerations that this inquiry is going to look at, but I think Australians just want to have a concrete answer. Why are there less flights than there could be? What are the reasons for it? What can we expect moving forward?
You know, you want to feel safe when you travel. If this was my mum or my sister, I'd be horrified, because when you go to places like Qatar, for me personally, there's so many rules there, so it has to apply to everyone. Do you know what I mean? You can't treat women like that if that's not acceptable in your country.
Yeah, I do know what you mean, Boy George. Thank you very much for asking. I think that it is part of the issue, is that if rules apply in one country, should the rules then apply in Australia? Can we set our own rules? And no one is questioning that. Australia can set its own rules about what is allowed in the country, in its airspace, how many flights, all of that sort of thing. I think this is, again, comes down to just transparency and just answers. People just want to know, why was this decision made, and will it be made again if somebody else comes into this country saying, hey, we want to increase flights? What is happening in our airspace? And that's what the crux of it is.
OK, Amy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.